Hi, my name is Mash Poligala and I am the brand strategist at Spellbrand, a leading branding agency. In today's video, we talk about the need for advisory boards for both startups and even regular businesses. And if you're an entrepreneur and you are in the process of either launching a startup or have already launched it, or even if it's a small business, then why you need an advisory board. We'll also talk about what an advisory board is and how to get members onto the board and so on. Okay, so when you're launching a startup, there's a lot of things that are happening, right? There's lots of plates in the air. There's lots and lots of pieces that you need to put together as a puzzle to make that launch a success or that startup a success. And this is not just about the business end of things. This is even about the existence of the brand itself, of the startup itself, right? Because you need funding. One of the critical elements of a startup is funding. Now, of course, you could be self-funding it, or you may be, partnering. So it's co-founders, and then you're pooling in your resources, your finances. Maybe you're getting an external debt going, or you're going for venture capital. In any of these circumstances, an advisory board is something that can really add value. Now, there's a subtle difference and sometimes even a significant difference between a regular board of advisors and an advisory board that is made up of entrepreneurs or advisors that come in on an ad hoc basis. Now, why do you need an advisory board in the first place, right? You have a great idea for the business, for your brand. It's a product or a service. You understand whom you're targeting. You probably have a strategy on how to do this. Or if it's an application platform, then you have the technology, the idea for the technology or the blueprint. Okay, so you got the base laid out. But if you're pitching to investors, if you're pitching to potential partners, or even just to get all those pieces perfectly fitting together, you would need ideas and advice from people, a diverse set of people that have experiences and knowledge in these different areas. Let's take an example. An example where I can, speak with a little bit of expertise, and just to give you a little bit of background. Of course, I create brand strategies, positioning strategies, archetypal strategies for clients at Spellbrand. But on top of that, I also am a co-founder in an incubator. So an incubator is like a venture capital firm where we do invest in startups, but more than that, we actually build the startups as if we are co-founders ourselves. Not in an official capacity, but we are partners, right? So it's about infusing money into the company, but it's about building the team. It's about putting together strategy. It's about really taking that idea, the founders, and that the core all the way through seeing the end product and the brand as a living, breathing entity. Now, during all this, I sort of act as an advisory member on some of the brands that we work with, some of the brands that are external to us. So I do have a little bit of experience on what goes on, when an advisor comes in. And so from that perspective, if I just give you an example of what I do, for example, that would give you an idea of why you might need an advisory board. Typically, a lot of the time, startups and small businesses or even big businesses need advice in terms of strategy, right? So they have a product or a service, they have a great idea, and they know that inside out. They've been visualizing it, they've been working on it for months and sometimes years, and now they're ready to sort of put it out into the world. They're ready to build a brand around it. They're ready to take that seed idea and turn it into a reality. But one of the crucial elements is really that a startup needs a strategy, right? It needs a brand strategy. It needs a positioning strategy. And I have come on as an advisor many times to do that. So the value that I bring to that startup as an advisor is to take a look at their product, the service, and the target audience and say, have they aligned perfectly with the target audience? Do they understand the target audience? Do they have a customer avatar, right? And that is where the advice comes in. And I might be saying, okay, your messaging, this is what you think the product means to your target audience, but maybe it means something else. So how do you sort of change, or how do you even tweak, or how do you align your message so that you position yourself properly? Things like that. Now, you could, of course, hire a strategy consultant or a strategy agency to do that for you. Or if you could also bring on an advisor that you work with on an ad hoc basis and get the same kind of result. So this is just one example, one kind of scenario. Another could be a legal advisor, right? You could have an ongoing relationship with a legal firm that does all your legal contracts and things like that. But more than that, an advisor comes in, can act as a legal kind of expert on your product or service. And this could be to do with, let's say, privacy policies, or if there's a liability in your product or service, how to mitigate that. By yourself, you might not have that knowledge. You or your founders, co-founders, right? Your partners. Or the legal firm you're working with may not specialize in that. Maybe their kind of speciality is to work on contracts and just to make sure that you and your product and your service is abiding by all the legal kind of laws and things like that, getting the proper licenses and things like that. So do you see where the value of a legal advisor comes in? So this person comes on board and gives you a different perspective, and from a legal expertise perspective, and make you aware of things that you are not. So, I mean, I could give many different examples, but I think you get the point on what an advisor is, right? An advisory board is made up of these kind of advisors, these experts. And most of the time, you could work on an ad hoc basis with them. And sometimes if you feel it's right and if it's appropriate, then you can actually bring that members of that advisory board onto your board of members, right? If you see the long-term relationship value, and if the advisor also feels that this could be a good partnership in the long term, that can happen. So how do you go about putting together this advisory board? First and foremost, you need to really understand what is required to awaken your brand, right? To your startup. What does it need? What are the core components? What are the pillars that will make it a success? Yes, of course, the core product or service being right and perfect and high quality. Of course, those are a given, and you know that. But what else is required? Strategy is required, right? Understanding the market, making sure that it's a good fit, or making sure that it's appropriate. Is it the right timing, and so on and so forth. Creating a messaging strategy is important, of course, because you have a great product or service and you know that, and you spend most of your time honing, investing, you're building up a team. If it's a technology, you maybe you're coding an app, an application, a platform. But what about the market segment? How do you penetrate the market segment? Do you have the knowledge? If you do, fantastic. If you don't, then an advisor needs to come in. What about the financial aspect? Are you or your partners in this startup really good with finances? If you are, if you understand finance, if you understand how how finance works, especially in terms of a startup, and how the investment comes in and how it should be spent, and down the line, what kind of metrics are involved and how you arrive at profitability. If you understand all that, fantastic. If not, maybe you need an advisor to come in, right? What about marketing? Marketing and sales. That's a whole different ballgame. And yes, you could hire, and most of the startups hire marketing executives or marketing directors. That is well and good, but having a marketing advisor is also a good idea. Maybe even to double check what the people you've hired, if those are the right kind of campaigns, if the strategy is on point, because you cannot just hire someone and sit back, right? Marketing is critical. It's crucial to the success of your brand. I mean, an advisor can come in any form. So first, understand the bottlenecks, understand the weak points. It's almost like a SWOT analysis, right? You look at the strengths and weaknesses of yourself, your team, your brand, whatever you have. And wherever you have weaknesses, those are the places you need to bring advisors in. And where do you find these advisors? Now, typically, LinkedIn is a great place, right? Research and try to find entrepreneurs and experts, people. An advisor is not someone maybe who's just looking for a job as an advisor. In fact, most of the times it isn't. Most of the time, these advisors are not offering the services professionally to the outside world. Maybe they are already offering it through their companies, through their brands, right? Most of the time, these are entrepreneurs themselves, people who have been there and done that. Imagine an entrepreneur who has successfully come up with an idea for a service, created a platform, launched a startup, marketed it, and then sold it, right? Exited with a great track record. Imagine someone like that being an advisor to you and a mentor to you, right? So seek out people like that and invite them to become your advisor. The thing with these advisors, right, these people, is that it's not money that motivates them. Yeah, I'll be very clear. It's not money that motivates them. It is more to do with the challenge of awakening a brand. Yes. So you would need to appeal to their core values, to their passion for seeing brands succeed, for their passion for seeing something go from a seed to become a full-blown tree, right? So whether you can afford it or not, advisory is not just about the monetary transaction, right? It's not just about paying someone and then they advise you. Well, it can be like that, but it goes beyond that. Of course, at the end of the day, it will become that. So once you come to an understanding, they accept to become your advisor, to be on your board as an advisor, then of course you got to talk through, okay, what kind of payment, what kind of compensation. Usually it is a per meeting basis. Okay, so an advisor can come on per session, right? So you got a challenge. They will then do an analysis of that, and then they come up with a strategy or whatever, and you have a session, and that session they might charge you, I don't know, $3,000, $5,000, $10, $15, $25, $50,000 a session, right? And a session could be made up of a couple of hours, or it could be a series of meetings. These are all, it's not set in stone. There's no rule of thumb. It depends on the advisor. And sometimes an advisor might come on free because they want to be associated with your product. They want to be on the board because that is a badge of honor for them as much as it is for you having them on your board. So there's many ways of working with advisors. There's many systems, and there's nothing set in stone. So on LinkedIn, reach out. First of all, of course, identify if someone can add value to your company, to your startup, and then reach out and present your case. You got to pitch to them to say, this is what our startup is. This is our vision, right? This is our purpose. And this is what we want to do. And we appreciate what you have done. Study what they've done. And then say, we would love if you would become a part of our advisory board. So we're putting together, or maybe not, just not a board, it's just one. We want you to come in and add value to our company. And don't really talk about compensation just yet, right? Just leave it open-ended and be persistent and communicate and reach out genuinely. Please don't use a copy-paste approach. Don't prepare an email or whatever message and then keep sending it to people. It's got to be highly customized. It got to be really, really, it's almost like a marriage, so to speak, right? It's like picking a partner for your business, a temporary partner. And then get on video, a video call, right? Face to face. If you're locally, that's fine. Meet for a cup of coffee or a dinner or lunch, a glass of wine, whatever. Or get on a video call and pitch to them. Pitch your brand to them. And of course, ask critical questions, right? Just make sure also that they're a good fit for you. Not just what they've done in the past, but also this specific one. It's about identifying their passion and your passion match, because it has to match. And then of course, typically leave it to them to broach the subject of compensation. They will say, oh yeah, we'd love to be a part of your brand and I think our core values are aligning, but I'm a busy person, right? So my time is valuable, and what kind of a compensation scheme do you have for this advisory system? Okay, let them ask that. Or if they're not mentioning it and they say, okay, I'll let you know. If they let you know that they're interested, then of course, try and have an open discussion. But either way, know that getting an advisor on your board, or just one-off, ad hoc, whatever, is worth its weight in gold or platinum or diamond or whatever, right? Because a lot of mistakes can be avoided when you know the challenges ahead of time, when you know what the potential ending of the story can be. Because these people have been there, done that, right? Or they do it for a living, or they're passionate about it. They understand the nuances of building a startup. Imagine the time you would save. Imagine the mistakes you could avoid by having an advisor, right? Let me give you an example, something different. Let's say I'll give you a wine analogy, right? Because if you have seen my videos in the past, I'm a wine enthusiast, and I travel, exclusively to experience wine in different regions of the world. So let me give you an example based on that. Let's say you wanna go for wine tours in Tuscany, Italy, right? Imagine you set up an itinerary just by yourself, and you go online, you research, blah, 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 and then you start booking and you go. You could have success, but maybe it turns out that when you land there, you booked a particular type of car, but you start quickly to realize that maybe you should have booked a different kind of cars because of the way Tuscany is, and the roads, and when you drive to the vineyards and to the towns, and so on and so forth. Or maybe you made your bookings for the wine tours, right, to visit these vineyards at certain times, whatever you can find. And maybe you then start to realize that actually those are not the right times, maybe better times. Maybe you booked back to back, on a daily basis, because you thought, okay, let me just finish going to Montepulciano, going to Barolo, all these places back to back for 4 or 5 days, and then you left yourself 3 or 4 days at the end just for some other sightseeing, nothing to do with wines, enjoy some food, things like that. And then you realize after going there that back to back, on a daily basis, these kind of wine tours they're going to kill your palate, right? And after the second day, in fact, the rest of them just become, you don't really enjoy it. You're not getting the essence of it. You're not getting the benefit of it, right? What if, imagine that you paid an advisor, I don't know, maybe you paid $1,000 and you had 1 hour video call with this advisor. And this is not a tour operator, this is not a tour guide. No, this is someone who shares the same passion as you, loves wine, and goes around and has been to Tuscany more than once and has done it and loves it, right? Imagine finding someone like that. And Maybe they're not offering advice as a means of living. They're not doing it as a profession. But imagine getting them on the phone or on a video call, and then they talk about what they did, and they say, listen, get a Jeep, right? Never ever get a Mercedes or a BMW, because you'll be going to these far off places, blah, blah, blah. Always watch out for speed triggers, because Italy, especially Tuscany, the government they are notorious for their speed traps, right? Be very careful. Or go to the wineries, own the vineyards, the wineries or the vineyards only in the mornings or in the afternoons, right? Give breaks and do cheese tastings in between so you clean your palate. Okay, I know I'm spending too much time on this example because I'm actually already imagining, and yeah, there's an upcoming tour that I'm going on. So anyway, do you see the value of having an advisor? So think hard. If you're a startup, and even if you're a business, right? If you're a business and it's running, get an advisor on board to analyze your business, to analyze your marketing, to analyze your brand strategy, your marketing, your messaging. What are you doing online? What kind of campaigns are you running on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook? What is happening? Get an expert to analyze this. Pay them $10,000 if need be. I mean, $10,000 is nothing compared to the value you could get, right? And get advisors. Don't try to do it all alone. And yeah, you could do it. It'll take time to learn all the facets of marketing, of strategy, of branding, or on visual alignment, on the legal aspects, on, there's a ton. You could spend a lot of time, because you should be focusing on your product or service or your business, right? Running your business, taking care of your customers. That's what you need to be focusing on. You could hire someone to do this, but hiring is also expensive, and there's a risk. Is it the right person? You would not know for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, by end of which you might say, okay, maybe this guy is not really giving me the value. And then you fire them, and then you get somebody else. Instead, get someone ad hoc, at least as a proof of concept. Pay $3,000, get someone to become your advisor, at least for a brief time, and you would know straight off the bat what's happening, what kind of advice they're giving. Is it really adding any value to you? Then you can have more sessions. Then you can invest more. See what I'm saying? Okay. If you have any questions about this topic, drop me a line, right? Drop a comment below, email me, tweet me, whatever, because like I said, I have experience in this sector, and I can tell you more on how to pick an advisor or what to look for, because yeah, you're right. If you pick the wrong advisor, you're wasting money, right? But that is where your due diligence comes in. The time you spend analyzing and identifying the right advisor is worth its weight in gold too. All right? Okay, before I go around in circles, I hope you found this video useful. This topic is very important. You need an advisor. You need an advisory board if you're a bigger company, if you're getting seed funding, if you're being funded by venture capital or seed funding, or I'm sure you already have an advisory board. But if you don't, if you just, two partners, two founders that are launching this, then get an advisory board, right? At the very minimum, have 1 or 2 advisors. All right. Till my next video, take care.